Now let's come back home here in Nigeria. Earlier last week, we did see that the real estate sector has overtaken oil and gas sector. Yes, you heard that right, as the third largest in Nigeria. So, what a whole lot of people are still homeless. Millions more, I think about more than 20 million housing gap is still what we have. And the issue of pricing is a major one for the country. Perhaps if we looked the way of local building materials, we could diminish that gap. That's why we have right here in the studio Mr. Femi Rogers. He's a real estate developer joining us to share his perspective. Mr. Rogers, good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I wonder how excited you are, before we get into the real estate, about President Donald Trump in the White House.
I think Trump is doing what he's supposed to be doing at the moment, considering that the world right now is going through a recession. Everybody wants to save money for their country, and that's what I think Nigeria should be doing right now. We should be looking inwards into developing our own country, focus more on developing our own goods and materials,
Do you think protectionism should be the way
yes.
of the world, including Nigeria, especially Nigeria?
Correct. So in a case where we're not making so much money at the moment, what we should do is be saving what we have. And so we should be protecting what we have at the moment.
Okay.
And that's why I agree with the reform on the oil and gas sector, where, originally we were selling at a deregulated price, at a lower price, and then the neighboring countries are buying at that price. So what we should do is find a way of reducing losses that's within the country.
All right, well, let's get to the reason you're here, which is, can we really turn to the way of, I think it's still part of the protectionism, can we find a way of using our own locally produced building materials for our homes to at least reduce the pressure on the naira, which is why we see the value dropping, and reduce the influence of the U.S. on the country?
That's exactly what Trump is doing right now, raising, we should be raising importation taxes so that to encourage local manufacturing. We have the potential to do that, but unfortunately, we have the taste. A lot of Nigerians want to import, and that's because, it's easier to import than buy locally. So when the taxes are raised, we discourage that. And, that brings more income to the country. However, the issue of deficit is much more bigger than just building materials. There's so much that is happening in there. I think the biggest issue with the housing deficit has to do with funding, financing, especially mortgage. The country has to look very much into developing a good mortgage system, especially the secondary. We should leverage on the private sector. We should leverage more on having other kind of lenders, private money lenders apart from the bank, come up with policies that allow them to loan. They give easier loan than the stringent banks. So allow them to generate loans to ordinary people so that they can buy. When there is a lot of people buying, there is demand, then there'll be more, developers will build more homes. So the main problem we have is people cannot afford to buy homes.
Yeah, but when you say funding and, others should be allowed, the private sector should be allowed, we know that the private sector is out to make profits. So the private sector being there, isn't it, we already are facing expensive homes, which is, the issue why a lot of people do not own homes. Even renting at this time is an expensive venture. So shouldn't we be looking at a way of creating buffer for individuals to be able to access funding or maybe affordable houses?
We should start from somewhere. Just like in the case of the oil and gas sector, people were expecting that Dangote would be selling at a reduced price, but he's in business. So these people, these developers are in business. They have to make money. You have to encourage them to make money. That's when they produce. And then the more production you have, the market forces will come in, and there will be a reduction in price. Without you doing that, we're not going anywhere. So let us start from a place. After a while, market forces, there is more supply into the market, then the price start coming down. That's the only way we can
You are
go.
a developer, so you can tell us firsthand experience. Yes. It's I believe we are on the same page when we say it is expensive to own a home in Nigeria. From your practical experience, how can that be tackled for an average Nigerian to own a home? We have mortgage systems, which we know accessibility is a major one requirement. You need connections and all of that. So how can we make this work?
First of all, I think the government should take a national approach to this issue. It's not just the problem is so huge. It has a multi-dimension. There's so many things we need to deal with. We need to deal with financing. We need to deal with building materials. We need to deal with regulation. We need to deal with bankable title. So we have a whole lot of approach we have to deal with simultaneously, and the government should have a plan. I think that the biggest area, the most important area is financing. Once we begin to, when we were talking about, you just spoke, we have a mortgage system, but the mortgage system we have is not robust. We have a few banks that are giving loan. What we should do is develop a secondary market, establish a bigger secondary market, a secondary market that allow other type of lenders to sell the loan they have originated, selling to ordinary people on the street. They can go there and sell it to Federal Mortgage Bank and say, look, I got a loan at maybe 20% right now, and I want to sell it to you at 19%. And then they can go back to the market. What will eventually happen is people now have, even if so it's expensive, but people have access to loan, they can buy homes. The more homes we sell, the more developers want to also produce. We also have to make loan available, construction loan available to the developers. If we have all this going on, we're going to develop not just the real estate market, manufacturing. Real estate is quite big. I think we contribute about 6% to the GDP right now, and we still have a lot of potential. So a lot of things has to happen. We also have the issues of title. We can't get, people can't get good bankable title. Once you are able to solve...
That is a very long story, Mr. Rogers, about title. And it's with state governance, CFO, and all of that, and we've seen a whole lot happening around that. But I think we would have to invite you another time to complete this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Femi Rogers, real estate developer. I think a lot of people, I would like to connect with you, being a developer, because we did homes in this country. But thank you,
thank you for
your time on the program.